ladies and gentlemen, I am actually here talking with Steve Stoll, and for those of you who pay attention to politics, Steve was mentioned in a Salon article that was written by Max Blumenthal and David Newart on Sarah Palin's right-wing friends, and Mr. Stoll was kind enough to contact me, and to make a long story short, he was also kind enough to give me the opportunity to talk with him in live. Steve, say hello to everybody. Introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks, Danny, for the chance to set the record straight a little bit. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, by the way. Let's start right off the bat. Steve, I've read the Salon article over and over again, and as we talked before, it didn't place you in a good light. Can you help us clear that up? What did they get wrong?
Well, I think they got just about everything wrong as far as I could tell. First of all, they described me as a John Birch Society activist. I've never been a member of the John Birch Society. I don't even know if the John Birch Society exists anymore. That's a totally reckless thing to say. Frankly, I know the source of that rumor, the former mayor of Wasilla, and I don't have any idea why he continues to spread that rumor. That's totally untrue. They said something
what's his name? The former mayor? What's his name?
They gave me a nickname of Black Helicopter Steve, insinuating that I had buried weapons in my yard. That's just totally false. It's just ludicrous. Anyone that knows me knows that that's far from true. I'm a very peaceful person and so forth. My involvement in city government mostly involved the fact that the new sales tax that the city instituted, that Sarah supported, taxed groceries, and I felt that was wrong. I still feel it's wrong, and I felt very passionately about that, and I felt very passionate that if we're going to tax people's groceries, then we should be held accountable for the money that we spend.
Right, absolutely. Who was the mayor, the former mayor of Wasilla that you referred to, just for record-keeping purposes? Who was that person?
Former Mayor John Stein.
That's right, who was mentioned in the article actually quite extensively. It seemed like, did Salon try to contact you? The article had mentioned that they did, but you didn't return the calls. Is that true or accurate at all?
Well, you know, they did leave a message on my recorder. I work out of town a lot. I was gone for a couple of days and came back, and there was a message from Max with no intimation of the news that he had or the story that he was about to unfold. He was just asking for an interview. Frankly, I had maybe 15 or 20 different reporters call over the last month or so since Sarah announced her candidacy, and there was just nothing that spectacular or nothing interesting that I felt that I had to say.
And yet it seemed like your life has been almost turned upside down by this, because when I was doing my background research, even for tonight's discussion, I was amazed at how many bloggers and other news articles picked up the Salon article. And I said they recorded chapter and verse the different questions that Mr. I don't want to mispronounce his last name, but your alleged sidekick, Kleisler, am I pronouncing his?
Mark Kreisen. Mark Kreisen. Yes. I don't believe that, except for the video I saw of him, that I would even recognize Mark today. I remember him back in the early 90s when I first started getting involved in politics, but I don't think we ever even worked on any issues together or did anything together. When he became chairman of the Alaska Independence Party, it was a non-issue for me, because once again, this is another thing that they said. I've never been a member of the Alaska Independence Party. I don't believe I've ever even voted for an Alaska Independence Party member.
Wow.
Except for maybe Wally Hickel, but that's kind of a different story. He got elected governor as Alaska Independence Party third party candidate.
And you're an Obama supporter. That's what I find the most fascinating revelation of everything. So, and talk to me about that and why you're an Obama supporter, because I think that's the most untold story. It doesn't even appear in the Salon article at all, and it's amazing, frankly speaking, in my opinion, amazing character assassination that they've done.
Well, I think that's very ironic myself. I like Sarah. I voted for her for mayor. I voted for her for governor, and I'd like to see her complete her job as governor. I think she started out doing some very important things, but she's left us hanging. Mm-hmm. I personally believe that there's some very difficult times and difficult decisions up ahead, and I look at the character and the strength and the integrity and the charisma of the candidates, and I have to go with Barack Obama. I just have to.
Can you give us a flavor for what's happening in Alaska? Just recently, approximately a month ago, there was a large anti-Palin rally, and are the forces more evenly divided between pro-Obama and pro-McCain Palin in Alaska than we're led to believe? What's the situation? I'm just curious.
Oh, I think some of the fervor on both sides of the Sarah nomination has calmed down, and I don't think the real outrage or the real adoration is that important anymore. I think truly people up here have looked at Sarah very much. We like her. We do like her. There's no doubt about that. But I think almost universally we recognize the fact that she was very naive in accepting this nomination. She's very charismatic and we'll welcome her back home. But I don't think many of us really truly believe that she's ready to be vice president or president of the United States of America.
Interesting. Is it that, in your view, she's lost her way? Is this the Sarah Palin you knew? And how did you get to know her, by the way?
Well, Sarah, she was a city council person when the sales tax became instituted, when I started paying close attention to my government, and we became, I would say, friends. She came to a sledding party at my house one winter about 10 years ago, and she was mayor and brought two of her children, and she was certainly welcome here. And her, she's very ambitious, and her ambition sometimes has taken her, I think, beyond her capabilities. I think.
Well said. I'm going to go ahead. I couldn't resist that, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, and we are real proud of her. I mean, here in the city of Wasilla to become governor and so forth, and I think she was starting to do a real good job. Mm-hmm. But I think she really went way past. She just went way past her capabilities.
And I want to clear up something
on accepting that nomination.
On my end, I too, as my viewers know, have a great admiration for Governor Palin and what she's done. But I feel that my personal feeling is that she's been mishandled, and that she comes across as a person who has a good heart that is in a situation that she doesn't quite know what to do with. Am I wrong about that, do you think?
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. And I think she's been told to go out there and go after Obama. And I was really disappointed at her inauguration speech when she made fun of community organizers and made fun of the contributions that Mr. Obama has made to our country. And that isn't the Sarah I know. The one critical statement I will say about Sarah is that if you agree with her and you're on her side and you're loyal to her, she'll be 100% loyal to you. But that loyalty is a very narrow street, and if you disagree with her and if you don't go along with her, and I did, I did not go along with several of the things she did in town. She raised the sales tax, which included the sales tax on groceries. She put us in bonded indebtedness for the first time, $20 million. And I opposed those issues, and consequently, I wasn't very popular with Sarah towards the end of her campaign.
She can come back and clear that up, right? It's something that sounds like it's fixable, yes?
I'm sorry?
Could you come back as governor and help clean that up, perhaps provide Wasilla with the kind of relief that it needs to get back to budgetary health?
Yeah, we're very healthy. We have the sales tax, and we have quite a large population that shops inside of our city. The city of Wasilla has enjoyed a great level of wealth ever since the sales tax came in, and Sarah enjoyed that wealth, and as she enjoyed the wealth of the higher oil prices there at the state level over the last couple of years.
What is it that makes her so popular? In your opinion, what is the key to her success? Why this meteoric rise, and why her?
Boy, she really strikes a chord with women. She empowers women. She's very attractive without being salacious. And she's accomplished a whole lot without the advantages of birth or so forth, or wealth.
Right.
No, she has a lot to be proud of. And of course the reformist thing. She came in a time when Frank Murkowski, the former governor, was in, and she took on Frank, and people like that attitude. People end up in Alaska not because we're weak and vapid, but because we have this adventurous spirit. And Sarah's been on a heck of an adventure, and we're very we have great admiration for that.
You think Governor Palin will take on Frank Murkowski's daughter Lisa, who's current senator, when the campaign dust settles?
That's a good question. I figured that was the job she was after all along, and I think she could be a very effective senator. And I think that'd be real good. I'd like to see her finish off the project she started as governor first.
You said something to me that's very revealing, because I'm trying to give my viewers a sense of what Alaska is like. But you said that you have 670,000, I think you corrected me, 650,000 people on, I believe, 6 million square miles of land. And so that people in Alaska, you have people there that, if I may understand this correctly, when one says they're poor, we're talking really poor because they barely have a roof over their heads. Is that right? I mean, for some, not all of Alaska, but just to give an idea of what the terrain is like, if I may.
Well, the highway corridor is pretty suburban and so forth, and I think you'll find the same level of housing. But when I moved to Wasilla 35 years ago, it was $100 down, $100 a month. You could have an acre of land, and you could put anything you wanted on it. And still, Wasilla does not have a building code or a building inspector. You can pretty much build anything you want out of pocket as long as you don't get the banks involved. But you get off the highway system, and there's some amazing poverty. There's some amazing the way people live in some of the villages. It's incredible. They're still on the honey bucket. They still haul their water from a nearby lake. We're trying to modernize it, but however, with the cost of fuel and so forth, we're finding great migration. Just today, they reported that several schools are having to close because in these villages because there's not enough kids.
What's being done to help clear up that problem? What should Americans know about that? What should we as Americans have the government do, or if anything, or the private industry, or both?
Boy, this is such a large question, and it's very difficult. The Native culture here is very proud, as the Native cultures down in the lower 48, and resist the change. But the fact is that they were a migratory people up until 100 years ago, and that's what the land supports is you move where the game is, and you leave and you come back, and I think there's going to be a large migration of the Native people into the city, and we're going to have to accept this, and You know, the bridge to nowhere.
I was going to ask
there were
about
two
that.
bridges, and one of them in Ketchikan. I'm not really in favor for. It's been ridiculed excessively, and unfortunately, I think Mrs. Palin, Governor Palin, mischaracterized it. But the other one is a bridge that would expand Anchorage. Right now, Anchorage is pretty much landlocked, and there isn't room for development. And as these people migrate into Anchorage, they're going to need to grow. And there's a mile and a half bridge that we've been trying to build for years and years, and it was one of the two bridges to nowhere. But truly, it's not a bridge to nowhere. It's very necessary, and I think people in Lower 48 they need to come up here and visit and get off the buses and really look at the size and enormity and needs of this great state of ours.
You know, you said that Governor Palin mischaracterized the first bridge to nowhere. How so, in your view, did she mischaracterize it? Just curious.
Well, she ridiculed it. You know, first she accepted the money and you know, was willing to look at it. But then, you know, she said no thank you to the bridge of nowhere. Well, the people, there's a lot of people down in that area that thought that bridge was very important. I don't think it's very important for the people of the United States to pay for it. I think if we want it, you know, the Alaskans can pay for it. You know, that's the other thing. Of course, we have a lot of money in the bank here in Alaska, and it's in the stock market, and it's tanking just like everything else. And it's incredulous to me why we're depending on other people to provide our infrastructure when we have this cash and we should be using it.
So basically, you're saying you have this. I think, was it the commissioner, or the public safety commissioner that Governor Palin fired, Monaghan? Basically,
Monaghan, right?
That was a rainy day fund or something like that they're going to use in a case of emergency. It sounds like you already have an emergency or something of that order, right? We're headed that way.
Well, we have the Alaska Permanent Fund, which is from oil revenues. I don't know how you tie that into Monaghan and the Trooper Gate thing, but yeah, the Alaska Permanent Fund has been the rainy day fund where we've put in excess oil revenues, and every year we get a check from the state based on a fairly complicated formula. This year the check was for $2,269.
Nice. Now, I'm really not interested in bringing the Trooper Gate issue because I think that's separate from the overall matter. That's your decision. But I mentioned it because I did read the deposition as a momentary aside. That was the one issue that Monaghan and Governor Palin actually agreed on, was that there was there was enough money. It was a rainy day fund that perhaps should not be tapped into in case of an emergency, but it was never defined, you know, what an emergency was. That's why I raised the issue with respect to the economic situation in Alaska. Speaking of which, go ahead, please.
It'd pretty much take a war or something for us to crack open that permanent fund, because people are very possessive of it because it pays that dividend every year. But truly, we need to crack it open, and we need to use those resources to build the infrastructure in this state. Awesome. You know, we have great weather. We have South Central. You know, we don't have hurricanes. We don't have cockroaches. We don't have black widow spiders. We don't have poison oak. It's really a wonderful place to live.
I have friends up there. They always tell me good stories about it. So basically, you understand this, though, that if that fund is tapped into, it actually taps into that money that goes to Alaskans that helps them, right?
Right.
Okay, that puts a fine point on it. Hey, anything? Do you want to say something about Trooper Gate? Do you want to leave that off the table? It's your call. This is your platform.
Well, you know, Sarah, I think, made a mistake taking on the troopers, but there's a couple of issues that gets overlooked. I don't think Mike Wooten is your poster boy trooper, and I just recently learned, and it's something that I hadn't known before, but I just read that Monaghan brought forward. They had a Trooper Appreciation Week, and they created a poster. And the poster was the ideal trooper, your poster boy trooper. And he brought this poster boy trooper to the governor to sign to celebrate this event. And this was after he had already told the governor not to talk to him about the Wooten issue and so forth. And he brings this poster for her to sign. And who is it but Wooten?
You're kidding.
See, I hadn't heard this before. I just read this weekend of all the things, and I believe that was terribly insubordinate of him. It was he pushed the button, and I don't blame her for firing him.
Well, I know I'm respectful of your time. Is there anything else you'd like to add? And our main objective is really to clear your name and get it right, because again, Salon did a major disservice in my view in misrepresenting you. They were mentioned in the quote of the right-wing John Birch's way about 15 times, and just in the first article, page and a half. But well, go ahead.
It is incredible how a rumor can get spread around. How people that are respected, I think Max and Ben are respected in their field, and they put their whole career at liability. I'm real sorry. The media as a whole needs to slow down, take a breath, and stop reporting false news. I think it's really sad.
Myself included. I agree. I agree.
Anyway, and I do appreciate, Zenny, the opportunity for you to take the time and the effort to try to set the record straight. It's very difficult to do that. There's really no avenue. You can go blog all you want, but there's no guarantee people are going to read it or take it seriously. But the chance that you have and the exposure that you have, I really appreciate it.
Oh, and I appreciate the time. I've come up and visited one day because there was a woman I had a crush on at Cal who went up there, and I always threatened to go up there and never did. So I got to take a visit.
Oh, please come and visit me in Wasilla. I've got extra space here, and I'd love to show you around.
That's a deal. Hey, thanks for your time, Steve. I appreciate it.
Okay. We'll talk later. Thanks.